Welcome to Fear and Fiction, where the stories are strange and the fear is real. What's going on, Fear and Fiction family? We're back. I want to thank you for taking the time to come and check out the video. Today we're going to do some Memorial Day horror stories. So I know each and every one of you have plans. You probably got barbecues and kickbacks to go to. So I want to thank you for taking the time to see the video. Now let's get into it. My grandmother turned 96 the spring of last year, and she had one request for her birthday. She wanted to go to the Victory Monument on Memorial Day. If you have never been to Bronzeville on the south side of Chicago, the Victory Monument sits at the corner of 35th Street and King Drive. It is a tall granite column with bronze panels on three sides and a soldier standing on top, looking out over the neighborhood. The monument was built in 1927 to honor the 8th Regiment of the Illinois National Guard. They were the first black regiment in the state. During World War I, they were redesignated as the 370th Infantry and sent to fight in France. The names of 137 soldiers from that regiment who died in the war are inscribed on the bronze panel. Every Memorial Day, there is a ceremony at the monument. Veterans gather. Family members of the fallen come to read names. My grandmother had been attending since she was a little girl. She told me her father knew some of the men on that monument, that her uncle was supposed to be on that monument, but his name was never added. She had been telling me this story my whole life, and I had never really listened. Last year, I finally did. We arrived at the ceremony about an hour early. Grandma wanted to walk the monument before the crowd showed up. She had a list in her purse, folded into a square, soft from being unfolded so many times over the years. She handed me the list and asked me to read the names out loud as she touched each one on the bronze. I started reading. She touched each name. We worked our way around the panel. About halfway through, she stopped me. She said, "Read that again." I read the name again. It was a name I had never heard before. 3 syllables, a common last name, nothing remarkable. Grandma stared at the bronze for a long time. Then she said, "That name should not be there." I asked her what she meant. She told me that name belonged to her uncle, the one whose name was never supposed to be on the monument, the one she had been telling me about my whole life. I asked her if maybe they had finally added him. Maybe a family member had petitioned. Maybe records had been corrected. She shook her head. She said, "I was here last Memorial Day. That name was not on this monument." The ceremony started. We took our seats. I kept looking back at the panel. The name was still there, clear as the others. The bronze around it looked the same age. No fresh casting, no new patina. It looked like it had been there for 100 years. After the ceremony, I walked Grandma back to the car. I stopped at the panel one more time. I took a picture of the name with my phone. I wanted to remember it. I wanted to ask the Historical Society about it later. We drove back to her apartment in Bronzeville. She lives in a building she has lived in for 61 years. 3 stories, brick. The hallway floors are the original hardwood. That night, around 2 in the morning, I woke up on her couch. I was staying over because she did not like to be alone on Memorial Day. I heard footsteps in the hallway outside her apartment. Not regular footsteps, boots, heavy boots, marching. I sat up. The footsteps came down the hallway, stopped at her door, and waited. I did not move. I did not breathe. After what felt like a long time, the footsteps marched back down the hallway and faded. I told myself it was a neighbor, a drunk neighbor, a neighbor in work boots coming home late. I checked my phone for the picture of the name on the monument. The picture was there. The bronze panel was there, but the name was not. I scrolled through every picture I had taken that day. Wide shots of the panel, close-ups of other names. The name my grandmother had pointed to was gone from every single one. The bronze in those photos was smooth where the name had been. I went into the kitchen and got a glass of water. My hands were shaking. Grandma was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table in the dark. She looked at me and said, "He came back, did he not?" I asked her what she meant. She told me her uncle had died in France in 1918. He had been killed in the same battle as the other men on that monument, but his body was never recovered. There was no proof he had died. The Army listed him as missing. The state of Illinois would not put a name on a memorial for a soldier who could not be confirmed dead. For the rest of her life, his sister, my great-grandmother, fought to have his name added. She wrote letters. She petitioned the state. She visited the monument every Memorial Day and read every name and waited for his to be there. She died in 1981. Her uncle's name was never added. Grandma said every Memorial Day since my mother died, his name shows up on that monument, just for the day, just so somebody in our family can see it. He has been waiting 107 years for someone to read his name out loud. I asked her how she knew it would not happen again next year. She said, "Because you read it. He heard you. He came to thank you." I have been back to the monument 3 times this year. Once in June, once in September, once in March. The name is never there. But every night since that Memorial Day, somewhere between 2 and 3 in the morning, I hear boots in my hallway. They stop at my door, and they wait. This story came to us from a viewer down in Alabama. He asked us to change the names. We agreed. I drive delivery for a logistics company that runs routes out of Montgomery, Alabama. Last May, I picked up an overnight shift covering Macon County. Memorial Day weekend. Holiday pay. Easy money. Around 11 at night, dispatch sent me one last package. The address came through the system as 1107 Old Montgomery Road, Tuskegee. The customer name was a man. The package was small, light, the kind of thing that fits in one hand. I plugged the address into my GPS. The route took me out of downtown Tuskegee, past Tuskegee University, down a road that gets dark fast once you leave the city. No streetlights, just trees and the kind of quiet that makes you turn the radio up. When I got to the address, my GPS said I had arrived, but there was no house, no driveway, no mailbox. There was a cemetery. I sat in the truck for a minute. I checked the manifest. I checked the address. I checked it again. 1107 Old Montgomery Road. The gate in front of me said Greenwood Cemetery, established 1895. I called dispatch. Dispatch said the address was correct. The package had been ordered online, paid for, and routed through their system. They told me to attempt delivery, and if no one was available, mark it undeliverable and bring it back. I got out of the truck. I walked up to the gate with the package in my hand. The gate was open. There was a man standing about 20 feet inside the cemetery. He was wearing a brown leather flight jacket, old style, the kind you see in black and white photos from World War II. He had on a soft cap. He was standing very still, facing me. I called out to him. I asked him if he was the recipient. I read the name on the package. He said, "Yes, that is for me." His voice was calm, almost relieved. He walked toward the gate and stopped about 6 feet from me. I held the package out. He took it. I asked him to sign for it on my handheld. He looked at the screen for a moment. He told me he could not sign. He said his hands did not work the way they used to. I told him that was fine. I would mark it as delivered and signed by recipient. He thanked me. He turned around and walked back into the cemetery. I watched him go. He walked past the first row of headstones. He walked past the second row. He stopped at a section near the back where the older graves are. He stood there for a moment with the package in his hand. And then he was not there anymore. I do not mean he walked away. I do not mean he stepped behind a tree. I mean I was looking right at him. And then I was looking at empty grass and headstones. I stood at that gate for what felt like a long time. Then I got back in my truck and I drove. I did not stop until I was back on the interstate. When I got home that night, I could not sleep. I pulled up the manifest on my phone. I looked at the customer information. The package had been sent by a woman in Detroit, Michigan. Her name was listed as the sender. The package weight was 4 ounces. The contents declaration said personal letter and photograph. I did some searching. I looked up the name on the package, the recipient, the man I had just delivered to. He was a Tuskegee airman. He had trained at Tuskegee Army Airfield in 1943. He had been killed in a training flight accident over Italy in 1944. His body had been brought home and buried at Greenwood Cemetery the same year. The sender in Detroit had been listed in his obituary as his fiancée. She had never married. I went back to my dispatch records the next week. I asked my supervisor if I could see the order history for that customer in Detroit. He pulled it up. She had been ordering the same package every Memorial Day weekend for the last 26 years. Same address, same recipient, same weight, 4 ounces, a letter, and a photograph. Every single one had been marked delivered. I asked my supervisor who had been delivering them before me. He said different drivers, whoever happened to pull the late shift that night. He said every driver who delivered that package put in for a transfer the next week. I work a day route now. I do not drive Macon County. I do not drive after dark. But every Memorial Day weekend, I think about the man in the flight jacket. I think about what was in that letter. I think about a woman in Detroit who's now in her late 90s, still writing to a man who has been dead for 82 years. And I think about the moment he took the package from my hand. His fingers brushed mine. They were cold, but they were there. My auntie has been throwing the same Memorial Day cookout in 5 Points for 31 years. If you don't know 5 Points, it is the historic black neighborhood in Denver, the Harlem of the West. The intersection at 26th and Welton was the heart of black Denver for the whole 20th century. Jazz clubs, black-owned businesses, the Rossonian Hotel, where every musician who came through town played because they could not stay anywhere else. The neighborhood is different now, gentrified. Most of the people who built it cannot afford to live there anymore. But my auntie is still there. Same house, same yard, same cookout every Memorial Day. Last year, I drove up from Colorado Springs for it. I got there around 2 in the afternoon, music already going. Smoke off the grill, kids running through the sprinkler in the front yard. Cousins I had not seen since Christmas. My auntie in the kitchen with 3 other women working on the macaroni and cheese. Everybody was there, the whole family, plus neighbors. Plus people my auntie had been feeding for so long they were family by now. There was one person I didn't recognize. A man, maybe in his late 20s, standing by the fence in the backyard. He had a plate in his hand, but he was not eating, just watching. He was dressed nice, button-up shirt, clean shoes. He did not look like he belonged at a cookout. I asked my cousin who he was. She said she did not know. She thought he came with somebody. Everybody thought he came with somebody else. I did not think about it again until later. Around 7 that evening, something happened in the front yard. I was inside helping clean up. I heard the music cut off. I heard somebody yell. Then I heard the kind of pop that you know is not a firework, even when you are trying to tell yourself it is. I am not going to tell you everything that happened next. I am going to tell you that an argument turned into something else. I am going to tell you that 2 cars left the block fast. I'm going to tell you that somebody got hurt. The ambulance came, the police came, the cookout was over. By 9 that night, everybody had gone home. I stayed. My auntie was upset. I helped her bring the food in. I helped her clean the kitchen. I helped her fold up the chairs in the yard. We did not say much. Around 11, I went out to the backyard to pull the cooler in. The man in the button-up shirt was still there, standing by the fence, same spot, same plate in his hand. The plate still had food on it, macaroni and cheese, 2 ribs, a piece of cornbread. Nothing had been touched. I stopped at the back door. I asked him if he needed something. He looked at me. He smiled. He said he was waiting for his ride. I asked him who he came with. He said, I came with somebody. I am always at this one. I have been coming for a long time. I told him the cookout was over. I told him I was sorry, but everybody had left and my auntie was tired and we needed to lock up. He said he understood. He said he would wait out front. He walked past me into the house and out the front door. He did not put the plate down. He took it with him. I locked the back door. I went to the front to make sure he had left. The plate was on the porch railing, food still on it, untouched. He was gone. I went back inside. My auntie was sitting at the kitchen table. She was looking at her phone. She looked up at me and her face was different. She said, "Who were you just talking to?" I told her about the man in the button-up shirt, the one nobody knew, the one who had been standing by the fence all day. She set her phone down. She got up and she walked into the hallway, and she came back with a photo album, the kind with the sticky pages and the plastic film over the top. She opened it to a page from the middle. She turned it around so I could see. It was a Polaroid from her cookout in 1994. My uncle was alive in this picture. My grandmother was alive in this picture. They were standing in the backyard, in front of the fence, laughing at something off camera. Behind them, by the fence, button-up shirt, clean shoes, plate in his hand, same man, same face, same age. My auntie flipped the page. 1999, there he is. 2003, there he is. 2011, 2018, last year. Every Memorial Day cookout for 30 years, standing in the same spot by the fence, holding a plate he never eats. I asked her who he was. She said he came to the very first cookout I ever threw, 1993. He was a friend of a friend. He had a plate of food in his hand. There was an argument out front. Some boys from the next block over. He went to break it up. He never came back inside. They shot him on my front lawn. He was 26 years old. She said, every Memorial Day since, he comes back. He stands by the fence. He holds a plate. He waits for somebody to tell him the cookout is over and he can go home. I asked her why she never told anybody. She said because every year for 31 years, somebody at this cookout was the one who told him to leave. And every year, he left. He was waiting for permission. He just needed somebody to say it. She closed the photo album. She put it back in the hallway. She came back to the kitchen and she sat down. She said somebody got hurt out front today. The same way he got hurt. Same corner. Same time of evening. She said he's not going to be there next year. He has been replaced. I went back to the front porch. The plate was still on the railing. I had not noticed before, but the food was cold now. Cold the way food is when it has been sitting out for hours, not the way it had been when he set it down 20 minutes earlier. I picked the plate up. Underneath it was a piece of cornbread I had not seen him eat. There was a bite taken out of it. The bite was the shape of a mouth that had been smiling. If you grew up black in Atlanta, you know about Lake Lanier. You know what is underneath it. You know what happened to the people who used to live there. You know your grandmother told you not to swim in it. You know somebody from your high school knew somebody who drowned in it. For the people who do not know, Lake Lanier was built in the 1950s when the Army Corps of Engineers dammed the Chattahoochee River. The reservoir flooded 38,000 acres of farmland and forest. It also flooded what used to be the town of Oscarville, Georgia. Oscarville had been a thriving black community. In 1912, after a white woman was found murdered, the entire black population of Forsyth County was terrorized and driven out by white mobs. Their land was stolen. Their homes were abandoned. 40 years later, the lake was built on top of what they left behind. There are houses under that water, foundations, roads, a cemetery the bodies were never moved from. Lake Lanier has one of the highest drowning rates of any lake in the country. My boys and I knew all of this. We grew up with it. We still rented the cabin. There were 4 of us. Memorial Day weekend last year, we pooled our money and rented a place on the north side of the lake. 2 bedrooms, big deck, boat ramp out back. The owner was an older white man from Gainesville. He met us at the cabin, handed us the keys, and ran through the rules. No fireworks, no fishing off the front dock, and do not go in the basement. We asked him why. He said the basement was his personal storage. Nothing for us down there. The door was locked. He just wanted to make sure we did not try to break it. We said no problem. He left. We unpacked. We grilled. We drank. Memorial Day weekend on the water. Cousins texting us pictures from cookouts back in the city. The 4 of us out on the deck watching the sun go down over the lake. Around 2 in the morning, my boy came up from the boat ramp and said the basement door was open. We had not opened it. None of us. The owner had locked it before he left. We had watched him do it. The 4 of us went around to the side of the cabin where the basement door was. The door was standing open. Inside was dark. My boy had his phone flashlight. We went in. The basement was small. Concrete floor, one bare bulb hanging from the ceiling. There was a footlocker against the back wall, the kind soldiers used to take to basic training. Olive green, metal latches, a name stenciled across the top. We opened it. Inside were 4 sets of clothes, folded, 1960s style, bell bottoms, wide collars, polyester, 4 wallets, 4 sets of keys, 4 pairs of shoes, and a photograph. 4 young black men standing in front of this same cabin, same deck, same boat ramp, the lake behind them. They were smiling, holding beer cans. Memorial Day weekend, 1967, written in pencil on the back. My boys and I stood there looking at that photograph for a long time. None of us said anything. I'm going to tell you what we figured out later, because at the time we did not understand. 4 young black men from Atlanta had rented this same cabin Memorial Day weekend in 1967. They had been drafted. They were shipping out to Vietnam the following Tuesday. They came up to the lake for one last weekend together. They never came back. The official story was that their boat capsized in deep water in the middle of the night. All 4 drowned. Their bodies were recovered. Their families buried them. The cabin owner kept their belongings because no one came to claim them. That cabin had been in the same family for 60 years. The man who rented it to us was the son of the man who rented it to them. We closed the footlocker. We went back upstairs. We did not say a word about it to each other. We finished our beers on the deck. That is when I counted us. There were 5 of us on the deck. I'm not going to tell you what the 5th one looked like. I'm not going to tell you what he said. I'm not going to tell you what he asked us to do. I'm going to tell you this. We left at 4 in the morning. We did not pack. We did not lock the cabin. We got in the car and we drove back to Atlanta. And we have not spoken about that weekend out loud, the 4 of us, until I told this story. I called the rental company 2 weeks later to ask about the cabin. They told me the cabin had burned down 3 days after we left. Electrical fire. No one was hurt. The owner had passed away the year before. The cabin had been sitting empty. There was no rental company.
Okay, you made it to the end. I want to thank you very much. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and also hype the video. Get in those comments and tell me what video was your favorite. Until the next time, have a good day.